We are live. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to all the mothers in this group. Good morning. Good morning from England. And good evening in the Philippines. Good evening in Australia. Good evening in Canada. Good evening in other parts of the world. In the USA. Good evening. We have different time zones. All of us are in different time zone. But whatever your time zone, I hope that you had a great day and good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Be happy always. If you do not know me, yes, my name is Jade Locke and I am from the UK. I am a mother to 2 years old. His name is EJ, and I am also a digital entrepreneur. I teach people start their own online business from scratch, even from scratch. So, just using social media. So, if you are a mother out there that wants to earn a little bit of income or bigger side hustle, then keep in touch with me and I will get back to you and I will help you start your own online business. Today is a very interesting topic for me, very exciting topic for me because this is kind of my field. And it's not only me talking, we have a special guest right from the Philippines.
Yay!
Please welcome our guest today. Hello, Mom. Mom George
Hi.
Orihana.
Hi, Jade. Yes, I'm Georgie Orihana, and I am from the Philippines.
Mabuhay.
Mabuhay. Welcome.
Welcome to all the mothers. I know that we have so many friends here from the Philippines. So if you are watching us right now, please leave us a comment. And if you are whatever parts of the world you are, please give us comments. Send us emoticons, send us emojis or whatever, and let us know if you are a teacher because I know there are so many teachers here in our group. And let us know also where you're coming from. And if you have a lot of questions, then let us know your questions. Ask us, and we will get back to you because we can ask our guest, and she's
Yeah.
ready to answer us. Our topic for today will about Montessori school, but Montessori approach. But before that, uh, Mom Georgie, tell us about yourself.
All right. Thank you very much, Jade. I am Georgie Orihana. I'm currently residing in Quezon City, one of the big cities in the Philippines. I am 55 years old. I am a graduate of psychology from University of Santo Tomas, the oldest Catholic school in the Philippines. And I received my Montessori training from Maria Montessori School Foundation Incorporated that is in the Philippines. And I started teaching at the age of 21. I'm 55 years old now. So you could just imagine the length
54.
of years that I'm teaching Montessori because the first time I learned about the Montessori method, I simply fell in love with it. I'm a wifey to my husband June, and I have two sons. They are both young adults now. 125, that's David, and 124, that's Jerome. My June and I, we also set up our own Montessori school in the year 1997, and we are catering to children ages 2.5 to 6 plus. So that's about it, Jade. That's
Yeah.
George life. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I'm so excited. We can learn a lot from you. So, first and foremost, what is Montessori education? Because I know that we have Montessori schools and we heard a lot about this Montessori, but there are also other parents there that just heard about Montessori but doesn't really understand what is really Montessori.
All right. When you say Montessori, definitely it's an educational approach. It's a method of education, and it was instituted but by none other than Dr. Maria Montessori from the name itself. All right. And this approach affords every child the opportunity to develop his full potential according to his own pace and
Yes.
interest in cooperation with other classmates and respect to his own uniqueness and individuality. Well, that's how I would like to explain what Montessori method is all about.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So it's kind of really child-centered approach, right?
Definitely, it's child centered and it's developmental. What does it
Mm,
mean? The child is given the opportunity to practice so that he will be able to master his craft, and the children will be allowed to commit mistakes only so that he can have a reasonable reason to be successful too. So
yeah.
that's Montessori, yeah.
So now we know what is Montessori. What is really the difference? I know that there are also methods of teaching. I know in the school, it depends upon the teachers how they're gonna teach their kids, right? Even at home. So, what is really the big difference between traditional and Montessori approach?
Oh, well, there are definitely many differences between the traditional approach and the Montessori approach. But if I may just present to you the four general principles on how
Mhm.
Montessori would operate. First, it is respecting the uniqueness and individuality of the child. It's definitely child centered. It is not
Mhm.
teacher centered. All right.
Mhm.
The second one is it respects the sensitive periods for learning for each child. So there's really no well defined schedule for each child to learn a particular subject because the children they learn in different paces, okay, and
Mhm.
they have different interests. The third one is that children they have to discover and also be independent while they work with didactic Montessori apparatus. And
Mhm.
of course, there is a prepared environment. Like when a child comes in and work in the classroom, there are a lot of variety of didactic Montessori materials. All right. Another
Yeah.
thing is Montessori is multi-age classroom,
Mhm.
3 year, okay, like grades 1, 2, and 3, preschool, kindergarten, preschool, nursery, preschool, preparatory. But in traditional, there's just one single level in one class. So
Ah.
those are the basic difference between traditional and Montessori.
It's really a big difference, right? Because if we say
Definitely a big
traditional
difference.
approach, the same like when we go to school, 3 years old should be 3 years old and sit down and
Yeah.
pick the teachers like that, right?
And
So if
also, one
yeah,
size fits all for traditional.
yes, correct. That's really correct. So you've mentioned earlier that when the child enters into the classroom, there are a lot of materials. So how does a Montessori environment or a Montessori environment designed? How does it look like? So it's
Oh,
like
wow. Remember, I told you that when I learned about the method, I simply fell in love with it
yeah,
because the curiosity from the child when he enters the classroom, he would
mm,
be able to see a lot of materials, but these materials are not toys. These are
yeah,
based on scientific research, and each material would respond to the needs of each child. So they are interesting and they
mm,
respond to the curiosity of every child. So it is a variety of colorful learning devices which are scientifically proven to respond to the need of the children. And there's
wow,
order, yeah. And when the child gets in the classroom of a Montessori classroom, there is order, there is silence because the children are so focused working with the material. There is respect and cooperation because children would respect the children who are working. They don't just grab the material, they learn how to wait for their turn, and there's an activity going on. There's no boredom because we, the Montessori, believe that children learn by doing,
Yeah.
through our senses. So it's not a spoon feeding of information. It's
Mm.
actually doing, working. Help me do it myself. That's the call of our children, right?
Yeah.
Mommy, help me do it myself. Because that's an innate need from the child to allow them to work by simply working with the materials.
So if we set, like for example, a homeschooling mom like me, I am homeschooling EJ, but I have supplemental schooling that I send him to school only twice a week and 3 hours a day just for his
Oh,
socialization because he
okay.
needs to socialize other kids because he is my unico hijo. He's only
Yeah,
child in
yeah.
the family. And so
Okay.
how when I set up the school of it, I mean classroom of AJ, should I put a lot of toys there or a lot of materials?
Okay, so one philosophy that we are able to observe in a Montessori setup is isolation of quality. All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good that you will be providing your child with lots, but you have to understand what is that lots of material. So it has to respond for being simple first, then
Mm,
going to complex, from
mm,
complex to abstract. Like for example, if you want the child to learn about colors, you
yeah.
don't give all the 32 colors all at the same time. You
Mm,
start from the simple, the basic, the primary. Then once the child has shown mastery, then you go to the next and the next, because Montessori believes that it's not how fast, how quickly the child would learn. It's the mastery of the skill that is very important. So you see, when children work in a Montessori classroom, there's concentration because
mm,
they would like to master the craft and the value of repetition.
mm.
Right? Practice makes things perfect. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if the child knows this already, he would stop practicing with the material. In Montessori, it's very important that the child gets to practice because it's more of a process oriented approach rather than result right away. So the
It makes
process is
sense.
very important, right? So, with Montessori, I learned that education actually, it's not just the transmission of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's actually developing the total package. What is that? Releasing the human potentialities of each person.
Really developing the talents and skills
Yeah. And
of the
total,
child.
total, not just academics, right? You think about social, emotional, physical, intellectual. So Montessori approach actually respects the total, the whole child.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really awesome. That's really holistic. I've
Yeah.
met a lot of parents that sent their kids really they preferred Montessori than normal school because they want their child, especially in Europe actually, they are really into Montessori. They
Good.
Asia Asia is more of kind of traditional, like Confucianism approach
Yeah. Yeah.
especially in Korea. I've been teaching in Korea. It's really like that, and somehow in Thailand as well, and in Indonesia. But in Europe, they are more into play. They are more into Montessori. So, what are the methodologies in teaching in Montessori approach? How will you teach them?
Well, we usually follow the 3 period lesson of Sigan. Like, for example, in teaching the children, you have to introduce the concept first, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
ask the child right away, what is this? So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
most important thing there is that you give first the child the opportunity to listen to you or to engage with the concept, and you teach the child, you inform the child. Then after teaching the child the first, then you go to
Yeah.
the second, and that is the practice. Show me, point to me. And then the third is actually the evaluation. Like, you have to check, what is this? So most teachers, when they demonstrate their lesson, they already are asking the children, what is this? So that's already the third period of lesson of Sigan, right? You have to
Mm,
inform them first. Like what you did with EJ, I'm sure you gave him information first. You
mm,
taught him first. And then after that, you gave drills, you practiced. But for me,
mm,
if you want to teach the Montessori way, you just need to follow the basic philosophy of identifying a place where the
mm.
child can study. Because the truth, Jade, is this: there are too many children who are so smart nowadays, but they can hardly concentrate and focus.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's
So
really the
with
problem.
yeah, so with Montessori, it doesn't only allow the child to really become intellectual or intelligent. It's also important for the child to love work, love work, like doing it again and again, finish what has been started. And then
Mm,
while the child is valuing work, then he becomes at peace with himself and
yeah.
relaxed, not stress. Montessori doesn't stress the children with their subject, okay, with the things that they learn in school. There is more of happy thoughts in school when they do it the Montessori way. They enjoy teaching. Don't you know that here in the Philippines, if a child is attending Montessori school, and if it's signal number three, typhoon signal number three, classes
Mm.
would be suspended. Other children would love that. It's time for them, not to have classes. But with Montessori children, they don't like that. They don't want to stay at home because they love and enjoy what they're doing in the classroom. They
Mm.
can work
So,
with the
in
materials
so when
and
you teach,
practice.
do you have like schedule on what to do? Do you have a specific curriculum?
Actually, all you need to do is to be guided as to the needs of the child. You have to observe the child because it's developmental, and you make your own work plan on that day. That's how beautiful Montessori is. Of course, you have the guide, okay? The guide, you call that the guide of materials that the child can work with. But on
Mm.
that particular day, it's the child who will direct himself. So it's an
Oh,
independent learning, and the teacher will observe like a scientist. If the
so no
child,
lesson plan.
no lesson plan, but there's a
Oh, good
work
for the
plan. Like
teacher.
there's a work plan, a study guide. Like there's a list of materials
Yeah.
which you can, you tell the child you can practice in this, and as long as the child is interested with the material, you do not interrupt the child. Why? Because you are actually allowing the child to fulfill that innate need to have order, to have concentration. So for me, Montessori, it's not just academic advancement, Jade. It's
Mm.
more on developing these traits that you also need when you are an adult. Because when you're an adult, you need to finish what has been started, right? You need to master what you are
Yeah.
doing. So it's not about how fast the child can do. how quickly the child can accomplish, but how he masters the craft. That is Montessori. Mastery of skill.
So it is fun for the students to do that, to really touch all those materials. And also, it is fun for the teachers who are just watching the kids and observing the kids and not doing any lesson plan at all.
Yeah, but it's very hard because you also need to present how the material will be used properly, because they cannot use the material according to how they plan to use them, because they are children. That's why we are actually not called teachers. We are called directors, because
Ah,
we direct the children towards how they will be performing in the classroom, how they will be working with the materials properly. They have to be guided. That's why for me, for this long period of time that I've been teaching the children, teaching has to be coupled with discipline. You know,
mm,
it's very important to note, Jade, that when a child comes in a Montessori classroom, he cannot do anything that he wants to do. There
mm.
is actually a set of rules also
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
observed. Yeah,
There
that's
should
it.
be,
So
there should.
there is, yeah, definitely. So it's not freedom without responsibility. So the children are free to practice with the materials as long as they do not play with the materials, they do not destroy the materials, they do not grab the material while other classmates are using the materials. So it's actually, learning how to be cooperative in a small society. Even a toddler can do that with the guidance of the teacher.
Yes, that's true. With this situation right now, with a lot of countries that are still locked down and because of this pandemic, and so many parents are doing homeschooling. And of course, a lot of parents, because maybe it's their first time, they are not teacher at heart. Teacher is a gift somehow. They do not know what to do with with their kids. They do not know how to teach their kids, and they do not know what to teach with their kids. Can you please give us like guide on or tips how to apply this Montessori? Because I believe personally that it is more free and it's easier than traditional traditional teaching. So as parents, how can we teach our child at home in a Montessori way?
All right. If you are a parent who would like to teach your child the Montessori way, but you are not actually well informed about the Montessori philosophy, the first thing you should do is actually learn about the philosophy first. Because as teachers, we cannot just teach the Montessori materials to the children without undergoing a rigid training. All right. But just to be practical about it, my school right now does not have face to face learning. We have this blended learning. And you know what we do? We actually videotape the presentation of the materials and apply it in a very practical scenario, like instead of having wooden colored tablets, then the parents are advised to come up with color cards. All right. And then we show them actually how to teach the colors to the children. So now we go video. Other thing is this: we also provided the parents at home with a study shelf, and we provided, okay, the most basic Montessori materials to be placed at home. And again, the teachers videotaped the presentation so that the parents would be able to follow that, and that the children can also learn from the video or from the parent themselves. But what if these parents who are now watching or into this, they do not belong to any Montessori community? Well, I can just say this. As long as you identify a place for learning for your child and provide, okay, materials that would titillate the mind of the child, that would improve communication, that would also improve focus and concentration, and also the use of, you know, the motor skills. You know what? We are teaching the parents how to teach the children how to sweep the floor, because when the child does that, actually it's a preparation for doing gross motor activity, right? But it's a practical approach. Don't
Mm.
you know that we have a material that's clamping and unclamping of clothespins? There are clothespins there, right? The pegs. The
Yeah.
pegs. Why? Because whenever the child would press the peg close, open, what does it do? Look at my fingers. The ones that I use are the pincer's grasp, right?
Mm.
So you see, Jade, by allowing the child to unclamp and clamp pegs repeatedly every day, you are actually exercising what? The
The thing.
pencil's
Mm.
grasp.
Yes.
Finger dexterity, it's an
Mm.
indirect preparation for writing.
Yes.
Writing. So you see, you don't actually show the child that you are teaching him how to write because you are just clamping and unclamping the pegs, but in reality, you are exercising the finger dexterity, and the child is enjoying clamping and clamping of clothespins. So that's how beautiful the Montessori is, because there are different approaches, but actually there's a reason behind it. Even the opening and closing of bottles, the
Mm.
lids, when you turn it
Mm.
on clockwise, counterclockwise, what is that? You are actually developing concentration, so that
Mm.
when your child is working in multiplication or
Mm.
division, and it needs concentration to do that, right? So first, he has to do these things. These are the practical life exercises. And at home, those materials are available. Those
Yeah.
are available. Boxes, pegs, right? Bottles to open with. They can start in that. But as I've said, they cannot just do it any place in the house. You
Mm.
must identify first that this place is for that learning area. Why? Because you want your children to learn order.
Yeah.
Order. And order is very important. So order, neatness, value for work, concentration. So as I've told you, Jade, it's not just academic advancement. And I'm a psychologist, right? So for me, it's very important that these children learn the basic traits, like having concentrated respect, you know, respect for oneself and one's capability. The children in a Montessori classroom, they are definitely happy and fulfilled. Yes,
Mm.
the truth, Jade, we also guide them. We are there, but we are more of observing them.
Mm.
Because when they need us, we will be there. But when they do not need us because they're into that material, practicing with the materials, then we just observe them. And if I may mention, Jade, the materials in Montessori, they are self-correcting materials. There's what? Yeah, control of error. Like there's a material there we call the pink tower, right?
Mm.
It's composed of 10 pink cubes, wherein a 2-year-old or the 3-year-old will have to set up a tower from the biggest to the smallest cube. So even if I'm not present, or I'm not sitting beside the child will know if he has committed a mistake and he needs to practice more. How? Visual disharmony. The tower will fall, will crumble, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
from there
Agree.
itself, it's a self-correcting material. So the children learn.
Wow, that's really amazing. That's really helpful. So this weekend I have to buy a lot of bags and
Yeah,
not throw away all
definitely.
my bottles.
Yeah, you just allow him because I think your son is very smart, right? So now he just needs to practice more on this. You need this one, the motor skills and the concentration. When you have that, the potentials will be maximized. Total
Yeah.
package.
What we give him for concentration is the puzzle. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Puzzles, fortunately, he had a very long concentration because he was trained to that, and he can read books long time at a time, and he makes puzzles. But and he started writing, likes to write when he was just 2 years old, but now he is 2.9 years old. He gets so lazy in writing. He doesn't like to write anymore. So that's a little bit of burden I have because how is my
Yeah.
child to, and there is also a parent that asked me how to teach my child into writing and love writing. So yeah, I think that answers to our question that do not put your child, do not put a pencil on your child. Okay, right, you're right. You just give them toys and practice grasping and gasping those pegs and holding
Yeah,
those
that's why
pegs.
I want to ask because when you say the word writing, what is writing actually? We used to believe that writing is having this writing instrument and be able to form a symbol out of it, right?
Yes,
But the
yes,
truth is, writing has many elements, Jade.
yeah, yeah,
Writing is actually putting into graphic symbols your
yes.
thoughts, right?
Mhm.
So part of writing is actually developing the vocabulary of the child because what will the child write if the vocabulary is limited? So
Exactly.
writing is actually very broad. But now you know that if you want your child not to be bored into writing, then you can do a lot of different strategies, not just the
It's good.
actual writing instrument. Even,
Yes,
you know what, even cutting and pasting, wow, that's writing. That's an indirect preparation for writing. Yeah,
yeah.
cutting, pasting, folding, screwing and unscrewing caps in a bottle. Those are other different approach to writing.
So it's just most of the parents really like teaching and learning is really like very rigid and serious, right? But actually, learning and teaching should be fun, should be like
Definitely.
play like.
Definitely. That's so true. Learning is actually fun. Why
Yeah.
make it, rigid to the children where in fact children is definitely basically exploratory,
Yes, yes,
curious. They love to work with their hands, So let us allow these children to be like them and then at the same time offering them materials that would titillate the senses, that would allow their senses to work. And
so I
that's the
think we're as parents first, we need to shift our mind, change our mind setting, our mentality, and our thinking principles towards teaching and towards learning. So, Mom Georgie, what's your final words and encouragement to the parents out there who are listening to us right now on how to teach their kids, and as a parent also that sometimes they feel guilty because they are not really teaching.
Well, I have mentioned it a while ago that for me, education, it's not just the transmission of knowledge. Okay? For me, education is allowing the child to really appreciate himself through his own discoveries with your guidance, but
Mm.
actually being able to maximize his potentials fully. Now, as a parent, you have a choice whether you destroy that opportunity for your child to fully maximize his potential, or to be a great facilitator so that you will help your child maximize his full potential. That's it. Because whether
Thank
you, yeah, you know what, Jade, whether you are using the traditional approach or the Montessori approach, as long as it's clear for you that you
Mm.
want to respect the child's individuality and uniqueness, nothing can go wrong. Because for me, for this long period of time that I've been teaching the children, and the teachers would ask me, Teacher, it's so difficult to teach. And I would often tell them, because you are really taking the word teach seriously. Why
Yeah.
don't why don't you spell teach like this? Love. That's how
Yes.
we spell teach, right, Shade?
That's really right. That's really right. Just loving everything. When you
Yeah,
love it, then you will excel. Whatever
exactly.
whatever your profession is, whatever your work is, whatever you are into, if you don't have that love, then you will never ever excel. But
Exactly.
if you have that love, even though you have that limitations in yourself, but you will still excel, but because you have that love, so you will really give your best towards it. Mom Georgia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I
you
I feel so
also.
honored to be given time by you and graced by your time. Thank you so much. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate your wisdom.
Shade. You're welcome, Shade. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. And that I am enjoying this group so far.
Thank you so much. So, guys, if you are there watching us and if you still have a little bit of confusion, and if you want to clarify something, and if you want to ask something, here you go. Mom Georgie is one. One in our community, and she is here that she can answer your question and we can get back to you. She is our consultant in our group. See, she is that good. Yeah. You, yeah, don't worry. Just let us know whatever your doubts and your questions are, and we will answer that the best that we can. Thank you so much, mothers. I hope that you will have fun now teaching your kids and loving the time with your kids while
Amen.
learning. Goodbye,
Amen.
everybody. God bless everyone and stay safe.
Stay
Bye.
safe. Bye. Thank you
Bye.
very much. Thank you, Jade.